All right. Today is September 30th, 2025, and this is my review. You could see that today ended up being a pretty good day, especially ending the session the way that I did. Ended up a pretty big trade in my favor. Um, there were a lot of trades. I'm sitting at 16 executions. If I put commissions on, you can see that does change things pretty dramatically. Um, but I still I like where I'm at, regardless. Um, Try not to focus too much on profit after commissions, just because my goal right now is consistency, and that's all that matters to me. That's it. That's the bottom line. Just consistency, and I think today was pretty consistent. Um, as I said, I had a total of 16 trades. You'll see here that my stats are being displayed in currency value as opposed to tick value. That's because I have made a pretty significant change in my trading system, and that is fluid sizing, implementing micros into my trading. Um, so as a result, I think it's just easier to keep track of my uh, performance with currency. I try to avoid that just because I don't want to develop any sort of psychological connection with P&L and ticks. Displaying P&L and ticks is one way to avoid that, but at the end of the day, I am eventually going to become a professional trader, and I'm going to have to pay attention to P&L at some point. So, um, in that sense, I'm kind of ripping the band-aid off here. But let's get into stats. I had a win rate of 68.7%. My average win was roughly $50, and my average loss was about $48. So pretty much 1 to 1 right there. And at near 70% win rate, I think that is pretty good. That is long term profitable. So I guess I do want to talk about the P&L curve here before we get into the actual trades. I had mentioned how I switched over to fluid sizing. Now, there are some pros and cons to fluid sizing. The biggest, I'll start with the bad stuff first. The biggest con to fluid sizing is it can get out of control easy. And if you're sizing up into losers, or if a trade's going against you and you're sizing up and adding into it, or if you're in a losing streak and you keep betting bigger, you're gonna make problems a lot worse. And it requires a lot of discipline uh, to not do that. Um, but I like to think I'm at the point in my trading right now where I'm sticking to my rules, and if I have a rule to never add to a loser and to always size down after if I'm in a drawdown, then I think those problems are negligible. Now, the biggest benefit to fluid sizing, in my opinion, is that I can mitigate my losses. So you can see here that I had a pretty good winning streak off the open. Um, I hit almost $150 profit without taking a single loss, which is good. And maybe in hindsight, I should have cut my session there. But I want to try to get more out of these sessions. I think the conclusion that we're going to come to is that I should have practiced a lot more patience. I think a lot of these losses are going to be avoidable. But if I'm going to be impatient, if I'm going to overtrade, at least I'm going to do it on much smaller size. And that's what I did. So when this drawdown came, you can see I had some pretty consistent winners, pretty solid P&L, and then I hit a pretty big loss. This was a pretty sizable chunk of my P&L, like $60 or something like that. Um, I ended up making it back and then some, and then I hit another one. So at this point, I realized, okay, something's up. Something's going on here. Something's wrong. Um, at this point, I should also mention that changing my size isn't solely dependent on my P&L. I think if that was the case, it would just invite too much volatility, too much P&L volatility. It is a systematic approach dependent on setup quality. So while these first few trades look nice on the P&L curve, they weren't really great setup quality, and we'll get into why. Now, when I'm taking these bigger losses, especially on a mini, that's because I'm sizing up because I think that there is a better opportunity. So I think that there's a really good A plus setup coming. I'm going to size up to a mini, and I'm going to risk more on that trade. If it's not a great setup and it's like a B or a C great setup, I'm going to use micros. I'm not going to. I'm going to risk roughly a quarter of what I usually would on a lower tier setup. Um, so if we just for a mental exercise here, let's add a filter for symbol, and we will only do minis. So this is what my P&L would have looked like. Oh, sorry, these are micros. So this is what my P&L would have looked like on only micros. There's a lot of volatility here. It's up, down, up, down, up, down. Overall, profitable, but basically break even, and that's good. That's what I want. I want to be break even with these trades because what it's doing is it's keeping me occupied. It's giving me more reps, so I'm getting those reps on what a good trade looks like, what a bad trade looks like, what I should avoid in the future, what I should press in the future. Um, and I'm not necessarily losing money either. It's break even. Now, if I change that filter over to, I believe it's this one. Here's this guy. If I change it over to minis, you can see I did a lot better. These are good quality setups. So good quality setups still lose. I took 2 losing trades um, on minis, but overall, very profitable. Very, very profitable. I'm even going to screenshot this for future reference. I just want to post that. So I think that says a lot. The fact that if I'm filtering out just the good setups in theory, now we're gonna review all these trades, and it might turn out that some of these aren't good, which is a mistake, and I want that's the point of the review. I want to find the mistakes I'm making. Some of these might not be great setups, but in theory, what I'm trying to practice with this fluid sizing is if it's a really good setup, I want to take it on a mini contract. I want to size up. If it's not, I want to size down. I want to be on a micro contract. So I think that just kind of puts it into a better context. Um, Now, as we're reviewing these trades, I am going to try and focus on the minis. I'm still going to review the micros, but we're just kind of speed through them. because again, the micro trades are just kind of there to keep me occupied, whereas the minis are really, in theory, good quality setups. So let's start with the first trade of the day. This was a $25 profit to the short side. This should have been a $50 profit. I'm not sure why, but I was only sized to one mini contract when I should be sized to two. So unfortunately, my profit was cut in half here. Took a short there for 2 ticks. So one problem that I immediately notice, and is probably going to be the biggest problem of my session today, is that I'm not narrating. I wasn't narrating nearly as much today because I was in a Discord call with Fat Cat. For better or for worse, when I'm in a call with Fat Cat, I like to listen to him narrate. We like to bounce ideas off each other. But one of the negative effects of that is that I'm not sure if it's like if I'm afraid to make a call out because it'll be wrong, or if there's multiple people watching the stream, if they're gonna judge me because I make a bad trade. For whatever reason, I'm less likely to narrate as much as I usually do when I'm alone. And I don't like that. I wish I part of me wishes I traded alone today, but at the same time, I think there's a incredible amount of edge in trading in groups. So I want to do a better job of narrating when I'm trading with other people. Um, but that being said, I think this was a really good trade. Really like that double top there. So I kind of say I really like the double top there. Let's go ahead and screenshot this one. I want to make a habit of screenshotting every single mini that I trade. So I think my entry was roughly here. My exit was roughly here. I would have liked to hold that a little bit longer, maybe down into this lower order block, but I'm not sure that ended up hitting, at least not with ease. Plus 2 ticks to the short side. And this was a risk off environment. I think the entire day was risk off. So what did I have going for me? I had a big juicy order block below that I wanted to trade into. I had some smaller ones below us that I wanted to trade into. We invalidated a bunch above us. But I've still got some backside risk. So backside risk. So I want to try and keep these trades as tight as possible. Buyers below. Fading into them. I want to fade these buyers. They bought on the way up, and now price is coming back. I think they're going to get squeezed out of the market. And a big buyer below. Fade. Cool. As far as areas of interest go, I did like that we put in a nice double top here. Double top at opening range high. And then I do have, I'm kind of running out of space here. Momentum into opening range low. So we came up, we double topped opening range high, and now we're kind of screaming into opening range low. I think I had a pretty good idea for the short there, and that's why I took it on a mini. So let's paste that in there. Before I do tags, I'm going to have to add a new tag. Um, area of interest. So ideally, all of my A or A plus setups should have the area of interest tag. That means there's a level that we're trading through, which I think is going to add edge to the trade. So we had big order blocks, we had small order blocks, we had a nice reclaim, we had range favor, multiple factors of support. Against me, I did have some smaller order blocks against me, but that's kind of it. Yeah. Entry good. Exit was a little early. I think I could have. Let's rewatch this and see if I could have got anything else out of it. Yeah, I definitely could have got more out of it. So exit was early. This was a conservative scalp. I'm going to call this an A setup. Risk off and area of interest. I think it could have been an A plus if we were in a risk on environment, but we weren't, unfortunately. I had pretty good slip favor. I was clear on this trade. I was calm, I was content, and I was maybe patient. I don't think I was perfectly patient here, just because we are only 2 minutes into the open. You'll notice that I am tracking my heart rate in these trades. I do remember for a fact that my first couple trades were pretty low heart rate. And that does pick up later in the session. This will obviously be a green star trade. Trade number 2 is a micro. It was an $18 profit to the long side. So unfortunately, I can't see my executions on the DOM, but I know roughly where I'm getting in and getting out. This was a great trade as far as a micro goes. I think I had really good upside risk, although I was fighting the trend. So let's put our tags in. Trend against, I did have big order blocks in my favor, as well as small order blocks. Yeah. And that's kind of it. I don't think I had a whole lot else going on for me. Maybe reclaim favor. Put the max multiple factor support on. Entry good, exit good. This was pretty aggressive considering that I'm fighting the trend, I think. No, because I think it's conservative because the price action had a chance to develop. I think if I just went long right here at the bottom of this massive spike down, that would have been way too aggressive. But this is pretty conservative. I'll give this a B setup, and this is in a risk off environment. I had a pretty good slip favor on it. I was clear. I was calm. I was content. And I think I am patient here. I'm waiting a little bit longer after the open for trades. This will be a green star. The next trade is a $23 profit to the short side. A little bit of downside continuation here. The trade should be over by now. I think I should have taken the profit right there, and I don't hear myself saying that. So again, I do wish I was narrating a little bit better today so I could get more information from these replays. I think it's just a good practice to narrate. I only had the small order blocks in my favor. I did have trend favor, but that's pretty much it. Against me, I did have one big order block against me, which is a little sketchy. My entry was good, but it looks like my exit was late. I think I stayed around a little too long on it. This was pretty conservative. It was a scalp. I'm going to give this a C grade. I'm not too crazy about it just because we don't have big order blocks in our favor. This is a risk-off environment. I did have slip favor. I was pretty clear on direction at this point. I was calm. I was content. I think if I'm not mistaken, I was trying to take trades in this area before. So I'm going to put maybe patient just because I think I was just experiencing a little bit of patience issues here. But considering it was a micro trade, I didn't risk much on it. I'm going to green star it. This will be a green star trade. Trade number 4 is a $25 profit to the long side. And this is on a mini contract. So this is, in theory, supposed to be a good quality trade. So let's watch the replay on it. I'm going to rewind just a couple seconds so I can get an idea what's going on. Fairly confident in a pullback here. I'm going to try it to the long side.
Be quick about it, because I think it might go down.
Yeah, I do got master reclaim below. See what it does here. I'll take the
There you
3.
go.
Took the 2. So I got out of that pretty fast. I think this was a very aggressive trade, which I don't like. I don't think I should be trading this aggressively, especially on a risk off kind of day. I do know why I was on a mini contract here though, and that's because I was looking for a breakout above the opening range. But there was a V flush against me, so I don't think this is going to end up being a good trade. Let's screenshot it. I want screenshots of all my mini trades. So my entry was roughly like here. My exit was like here. This was essentially my bull bias I was looking for. Opening range, a breakout. But what I didn't consider is that we technically we B-flushed here. So I was hoping for a little retest, pullback, and then upward into the opening range. Another problem I had was a whole bunch of blocks below me. So I will highlight those. A lot of backside risk here. Backside risk isn't horrible as long as you're in a risk-on environment, and I was not in a risk-on environment, unfortunately. I will also highlight all of these guys that were just invalidated. Invalidation. Could reverse. Backside risk. Yeah, so just need to be a little bit more careful. All right, so I think this is going to be a red star. I only had small order blocks in my favor. Yeah, literally just one in my favor. I did have an area of interest against me. I did have smaller order blocks against me. I had reclaim against me. I also had a V flush against me. So a lot of stuff working against me here. Yeah. I'm not going to bother with entries. This was an aggressive scalp. Risk off. Slip was kind of mid here. I think I was confused at this point. I was maybe calm. In fact, I'm going to say no, I was not calm because my heart rate did shoot up to like 111 beats per minute or something like that. I was content with P&L, and I was maybe patient. I wasn't necessarily impatient because I did wait between my last trade, but I'm also pulling the trigger at the high of day, so maybe not perfect patience. I am glad I got a profit out of it, but getting a profit out of a losing trade, I mean, that shouldn't be. That's nothing to pat yourself on the back for. I think this was an unnecessary loss. Trade number 5 is a $50 profit to the long side. Let's watch the recording.
Bit of a reclaim below. There it is.
Downside looks good. I'm going to try it long.
Long?
Yeah, just for the quick reclaim.
Be careful, man. It's getting thick again.
Take it there for the 2. Got it.
There you go.
So another quick little scalp. I do technically have area of interest here because it's bracketing in the opening range. but I still don't think it's a great trade, honestly. If I fast forward a bit, we'll see that the trade would have come back against me. So let's screenshot this guy. My entry was here roughly. My exit was here. So I could see what I was trying to do here. There was an order block that got invalidated, but we still had more on my backside. So fresh order block invalidated, but more on side. And then I really only had one tiny little order block in my favor. I did have a bigger one on the 30-second. Seller above. Who I'm fading. I want to fade that seller. And we are technically bracketing the opening range. So I'm hoping for a kind of boom, boom, boom type of situation. Range breakout is still in play. I still have that V flush against me though, so I need to mark that. So 30-second long risk off. So I do technically have a area of interest. I only have a small order block in my favor. And I don't think there's a real trend here. I think we're still ranging. And if the opening range is going to develop into a price action range, I technically have range favor, but if the entire day is turning into a range, I'm kind of range against. So I'm going to mark that range against. I do have small order blocks against me, but I think that's it. My entry. My entry was probably early. My exit was decent. And this was a try too. I'm technically trying again on the first one. This was more conservative than the last one. And it's a scalp. I'm gonna say this is like a C setup. I don't think this setup is as good as I want it to be. Risk off environment. I technically had the slip favor. My market read was in between here. I wasn't clear or confused. I was maybe calm. I think my beats per minute were a little better here, but still not great. I am content with P&L, but I'm only maybe patient. I'm not perfectly patient. This will be a yellow star trade. I don't think it's great. Trade number 6 is a $60 loss on micros, so I'm just going to speed through this. $60 loss to the long side, I should specify.
Try the long for the slip range.
So I tried to get long at the bottom of the slip range, but I'm fighting the trend, so not a great trade, but considering we're on micros, I won't beat myself up about it. I had the range, I had the trend against me. I did technically have range favored because we were in a good slip range. Had big order blocks above. And virtually nothing on my backside, which is good. I'll even give myself reclaim advantage. Entry good, but exit late. I think I could have got out of this for a much better price, I think. This was a conservative scalp. Actually, I'm going to call it a move to move because I wanted to see the top of the range. That was a definitive target I had. I'm going to call this maybe a C tier setup. Risk off. I did have slip favor. I was pretty clear here. My calmness had returned. I was calm at this point. I was okay with P&L, and I was pretty patient. So, I maybe didn't have the best edge here, but I think I mean, it's a decent trade, I guess. It's a decent attempt at a low probability setup, I suppose. I just maybe risked a little bit too much. So, I'll green star it just for the sake of, you know, decent setup is worth the attempt. Let's move on to the next one. This is trade number 7, $71 profit to the short side. And it's on a micro, so it looks like I just fixed the mistake that I had made prior. I held this one for quite a while.
Order blocks up there. I'm gonna try the short.
So this is to the short side. I have
It's good
big orders
frame
below
for
us.
this section.
I like this. I like this trade. I gotta say, I just wish I wasn't in it for so long.
That order block at ones. Fold.
Yeah, and I got most of that. I got the juice out of that. So I don't think this trade would have been nearly as profitable, but we just had this huge puke through the bottom of the range. What I did was I took partial profit at my first target, which was 2, I think, and then I held the remaining through to the rest. Oh, I need to go back and tag this one as a partial. And then I had another one later that's a partial. Let me tag that first just so I don't forget.
Pivot.
So this was a great trade, in my opinion. I had big order blocks in my favor. I didn't have a lot against me. I did technically have some, but they're not that fresh. Yeah, I'm just going to say I had small order blocks against me. I did have some reclaim against me, and I was technically against the range. So I think that's about it. I do have V-Flush in my favor, though. So I do have a V-Flush in my favor. My entry was good. My exit was good. This was a conservative move to move. So I had a pretty clear target, and I took a partial off. I'm going to call this an A setup. I think as far as I didn't have an area of interest, so I couldn't call this an A plus. But as far as, you know, just taking decent setups, I think this is as good as it gets. Had slip favor. I was clear. I was pretty calm on this. I was content and I was patient. Green star. On to the next. This is a $75 loss to the long side. and it is on a mini contract. So we've got an area of interest there. It looks like we broke above the opening range high, and now I am trying to take the pullback. So I'm going long on the pullback, thinking that we're going to get continuation, but we don't, unfortunately. So I'm just going to screenshot this real quick. I'm going to put my idea. My idea was essentially that we break above opening range high, we pull back, and then we go higher. So opening range, retest. My entry was like around here somewhere. My exit was probably like right here. A lot of backside risk though. I gotta be super careful. I think this was a little aggressive. Yeah, I think that's kind of it. Just not great setup quality. I think these opening range setups aren't great considering. I did have an area of interest. I had small order blocks in my favor, but I also had small order blocks against me. I did actually have some pretty big ones in my favor. I am against the range at this point. I think that's it, although I do have some gnarly reclaim against me. My entry was early, but my exit was good. I got out for a pretty small loss, considering this is like a C grade setup. I really don't like this setup quality. Slip favor. My market read was in between, maybe calm, maybe content, and maybe patient. I think I'm starting to run into some psychological issues here. So I will yellow star that one. Trade number 9 is a $25 profit to the long side. Looks like I just catch a quick scalp. This looks like it's going to be a try two of the previous setup. Yeah, so I'm just going to copy the tags from the first one. Copy tags, paste in, and this will be a try two. This will also be a yellow star. Next trade is a $15 loss to the long side. Honestly, it looks like a try three, maybe. Maybe just a reclaim. So let me paste these. At this point, I do have range favor though, so I'll change that to range favor. I do have some reclaim favor. There are big order blocks in my favor, but nothing against me. Literally nothing against me, I don't think. So this one will be a green star because I sized down. I really like that I sized down here. The setup quality will probably be a B now, but there's no more area of interest. Entry good, exit good, I think. Even though it was a loss, I think it was a good attempt. That will be a green star. Next trade, trade number 11, is a $15 profit to the short side. So it looks like I flipped my bias down here. We couldn't quite take back that reclaim, so now we're drifting a little lower. Let's watch the reclaim or the replay. Pretty solid trade here. I think I take it off a little early. No, I don't. I actually get out at a perfect time. Big order blocks below us. I do have micro range favor, but I'm technically against the larger range, so I'll do range against. I'll do range against the trend favor. It looks like we are trending downwards pretty consistently here. Entry good, exit good, conservative scalp, risk off. In terms of setup grade, I'll say this is a C. There's not a whole lot going for me here. I did have slip favor. My market read was in between. I was pretty calm here. Maybe content and maybe patient. I think my patience isn't perfect here. But this will be a green star. I still think it's a decent attempt. Next trade is a $37 loss to the short side. Again, on micros. It looks like a decent attempt. I don't hate it. It didn't work. I think maybe my entry was a little early. Yeah, my entry was definitely early. So let's tag that. Entry early. Exit was good. I did manage the loss pretty well. Had one big order block on my backside at the time of entry. If I waited for that to be invalidated, it would have been a lot better. I did have some in my favor. I did have the range favor. This is pretty clearly a range at this point. And I also have the trend favor. This was conservative scalp, risk off, slip favor. I'm feeling really clear on this, so I'm going to mark it clear. I was fairly calm. And later on in the session, I still was pretty worried about P&L, so I'm going to put maybe content and maybe patient. This will be a green star. It's a losing trade, but I think it was still a good attempt, especially since I'm managing my risk well. I really want to emphasize that as long as I'm taking these risks with smaller size, they're good trades. If it was bigger size, they would not be good trades. Trade number 13 is a $50 loss to the long side. Let's watch the replay. This is again on micros. I don't have any areas of interest. Looks like a pretty solid trade. Yeah, got a pretty good continuation there. It's kind of a long continuation trade. I did have major order blocks in my favor. We invalidated the one big one below us. I had reclaim favor. I also had range favor. There's no longer a downtrend, so I don't need to worry about that. This has multiple factors of support. Entry good. Exit good. It was a partial fill, so I didn't realize that I had actually gotten into the trade. Conservative scalp. And this is a pretty good trade. I'm going to call this an A setup. I had pretty good slip advantage. I got a good pullback. I was clear. I was calm. I was feeling pretty content about P&L after this trade. But I'm going to put maybe patient because it was pretty short after my last trade. I will green star this one. Trade number 14 is a $50 loss to the long side, and this is on a mini. So we have hypothetically an area of interest, and I'm putting more risk on the table. I've sized up on this trade. I take it off pretty quick. I'm going to listen to the audio because I think we're talking about it with Fat Cat. Side risk.
It's not fucking jamming down. It should be jamming.
So one thing I noticed about this trade is that we're kind of slipping right through the opening range. So let me mark that. We're just kind of slipping. Opening range is slipping. On my backside. I would have liked for it to break out, retest, and then up. But I think that's too simple. I think this idea is too simple, and I've traded it multiple times at this point in the session. And I think it's just not a great trade idea. So I could get in here, and I get out like here. Well managed, but not a great trade. I think this is going to end up being a red star, honestly. We've just invalidated a lot of stuff up here. Would reverse. We're also putting in a lot of these peaks here, so not a great trade. I'm gonna red star this one. So first things first, slip against. I had only small order blocks in my favor. Nothing crazy against me either, though. Kind of cancel out. I did have reclaim against me, though, because we've gone up so fast. I had V flush against me. The only thing I really had was trend favor. But if we're doing trend favor, I also have range against, so they kind of cancel each other out. Yeah, that's kind of it, honestly. This was an aggressive scalp in a risk-off environment, so it's automatically a red star. If I'm aggressive in a risk-off environment, it's a red star. Missing context, because I didn't realize that we're slipping so violently in the opening range. If I had noticed that, then I probably wouldn't have taken this trade. I was confused. I was maybe calm, maybe content, and maybe patient. And then we get into the two juicy trades. So trade 15 is $100 profit to the long side. That's going to be my biggest P&L of the session so far. Let's watch the replay. I'm going to try long here. 625.
If anything, they may go to fours. I just get thick here.
I'll take it for the point. Got it. So nice quick point profit. I like it. Let's mark it up. I think I like this one a lot more than the other. I think my entry was there. Exit was there. invalidated some smaller blocks on the way down. We got some pretty clear upside. What I'm hoping for is a quick up, quick down, and then a push higher. Because we are in the opening range. And it looks like that's what's happening. So very decent scalp here. Yeah, I think that's about it. Let me type opening range. Opening range retest. Okay, good. I like this trade a lot. I think there's a solid edge there. I got the area of interest working in my favor. I've got some small order blocks in my favor. We just invalidated a bunch on the pullback. I'm gonna put liquidity level favor because the high of day has turned into a pretty solid liquidity level there. I'm kind of range mid, but I am comfortable saying that this is an uptrend at this point. So I'll do trend favor. That's about it. Entry good, exit good, conservative scalp. This was an A tier set. Maybe I'll call it a B just because I don't have great read on it. I don't have a lot of factors of support, but I did have slip favor. I was clear about what was going on. I was pretty calm. I was pretty content. But I'm going to put maybe patient again just because it is pretty close to my last trade. This will be a green star. Trade 16 is a $150 profit to the long side. So just two really big trades in a row right at the end there, which I like. And it looks like it is a continuation of the last trade. So what I'll do is I'll copy the tags from the last trade. I'll paste those on here. But I have compression favor because it looks like we're compressing into those highs. We had a good invalidation below. We have an area of interest. Everything looks good. Let's watch the replay. There's one invalidation. I'm going to try long here.
I think they may go force.
I'll take it there. Whew.
What got invalidated for you?
There were two little art order blocks on the 3 second at 7 and 675. And then there was a pretty big order block on the 30 second at 7 even. So they came down, invalidated the 30 second, and they invalidated the 3 second. And it just made for, and there were some order blocks on the way up that were. So I'm talking about it there. It was a very simple setup, and let's screenshot it so I could talk about it more. First things first, I really, really like this invalidation here. So we came down, invalidated that. That means we have virtually nothing on our backside. So invalidated. I really, really like these kinds of trades where there's a clear level against me, we invalidate it, and then we go pretty much instantly in our favor. I did take a little bit of heat on this one, though. I think that was my entry, and my exit was up here. I pretty much nailed the exit. We had the area of interest, because essentially what I'm looking for is I want a move up, a move down, and a move up. That's kind of what I'm looking for. Opening range, test, and breakout. I think that's it. There's a very, very simple setup. We just had a really good invalidation. There was a level against me going long. We invalidated that level, and I was able to get long. That's pretty much it. Let me highlight the levels here. So opening ranges, yeah. That looks good. That looks awesome. Cool. So that will obviously be a green star. I'm going to call this an A setup. I think it would have been A plus if I had some bigger order blocks in my favor, but beggars can't be choosers, you know. Multiple factors of support. Yeah, I like that one a lot. So, I think that's it for all my trades. Let's go over the report card real quick. So, my goal is to narrate every trade. I don't think I did great on doing that today. As proud of as I am of this session, I could have done better with narrating and putting more effort into my trades. I think a lot of those trades that I took in the middle were avoidable just because they were low quality. And while I think it's okay to trade decent quality setups, I don't think it's valid to trade poor quality setups. I think just avoid those no matter what. Even if you're trading on small size, it's just not worth it because it's mental capital. You're also expending mental capital. So if I had to grade myself on this session, I'd probably give myself like a B. I think I did a good job of managing risk and pushing good trades and holding back on the lesser quality trades, but there were a lot of unnecessary trades in there, and I didn't do a great job of narrating, which is my number one goal this month. I think the easiest trade has to be the last trade, the biggest trade of the day, $150. It just everything aligned for me. We invalidated every level that was preventing me from going long. The trade worked instantly in my favor. Like, what was my hold time on that? My hold time was 16 seconds. So in 16 seconds, I made $150, which is really impressive. And if I had a second easiest trade, it would have been the one before that, instant $100 profit. So sometimes, when the stars align and you pull the trigger, sometimes you get lucky, and in that case, it's better to be lucky than to be good. That's exactly what happened. Things I did good. I really think I did a good job of managing my size today. as I talked about earlier, today was the first day where I implemented fluid sizing. So if a trade is less than perfect and it doesn't have an area of interest, like a overnight range or an overnight level rather, then I'm going to trade it with 1/4 of the size that I would trade a plus setup. I think I need to do a better job of identifying my A plus setups. That kind of brings me to things I need to improve on. Um, I think a lot of those trades that I placed today that were on full size were less than perfect. They weren't that really A plus that I was looking for. So just because there's an area of interest on the chart does not mean that I should be trading a mini. I think that was my biggest mistake today. It was like anytime we came near those opening range levels, I was putting a mini on full size. And I think that I need to make the distinction in my mind that just because we're trading near a level of interest does not mean that I should trade full size. Just because there's a level of interest does not mean it's an A plus setup. There needs to be something else setting up. There needs to be a big order block. There needs to be a price action pattern setting up. There needs to be a reason, a story. And just because we're trading near that level does not mean that there's a setup there. I think that was my biggest mistake today, but I'm also not going to beat myself up because it was my first day trading like that. So I think I'm going to get the hang of that in the future. But in summary, I think today was a pretty good session. I really like the fluid sizing. I think that's something I'm going to stick to in the future. It just worked for me today. That's all I can really say, and it helped me. It gave me the confidence to push good trades further and to cut poor trades faster. So I'm looking forward to where this takes me because I think this might end up being one of the factors in my trading that has been holding me back. And that is just treating every trade the same as far as size goes. It just doesn't really make sense to me. I think when you're losing, you should be losing small, and when you're winning, you should be winning big. So if statistically I'm on a losing streak, I should be trading with smaller size. If nothing's working for me and there's no setups presenting themselves, nothing good, nothing juicy, I should be trading smaller size. But on the flip side, if I'm on a winning streak and I'm trading really good and there are really good setups and there's nice volatility, then I should be trading with size. I should be pushing trades. So I think this might be a really interesting pivot in my trading career, seeing where this sort of stuff takes me. So I'm excited, and I will be back for the next one.